All right. Hey, good morning. It's Thursday, and man, like I say, weeks fly by. Tonight we're going to see Need to Breathe with some friends, and looking forward to that concert here in town, and get some dinner and just enjoy the evening. And so last night we put a basketball goal together for our kids coming for Thanksgiving. So just make sure we have enough games and things like that to hang out and do fun. And so put one of those together last night. Felt a little like Christmas, right? Not that it's a Christmas present, but it just felt like that, just putting that stuff together. It's been a minute since we've put play toys together. So it was fun. Tam and I hung out and had a great night. So let's jump into some truth today. We are in Luke chapter 12. We have flipped a page. And this is, Jesus is somewhat upping the game, so to speak, here when it comes to, he spoke much of the gospel, much of what it looks like, right? What does it look like to be a member of the kingdom? And then there's been a war with the Pharisees that's taking place. The strife is growing. The lines are more clearly marked. And so he now begins to step up, already started, and now is stepping up and moving more into warnings and judgments. This is where he is. His final judgment will be when he says, when he refers to the temple as he used to refer to it as his father's house. There will come a time when he will say it's your house, meaning Ichabod in that sense. The glory of God is departed. That temple means nothing anymore. And so that was the last conversation really before his crucifixion. And so so that did the crucifixion and the resurrection ended the whole need for that temple anyway. And so that was that. So we are in chapter 12, and it says, under these circumstances, right? You read the text, or it may say meanwhile in yours. It simply means meanwhile, like with all of that strife going on, the strife of the Pharisees and the lawyers. Remember, they called him a demoniac, of one who works under the power of Satan. They asked him for a sign. He said, I'm going to give you a sign. It's going to be, destroy this. I'm going to, just like Jonah, I'm going to be buried 3 days and resurrected. And this is it, right? And then he began to chastise them, called the Pharisees out, gave them three woes of what was going on in their world. The lawyer, so hey, that kind of hurt our feelings too. And he said, good. And he gave them three chastisements as well. And now we come to this. Jesus has called them out. He's called them blind. That's one of the first things he did, right? He called them blind. That he called them hypocritical. And he called them an obstacle to heaven. Those are the three things that he had been speaking of, right? That, hey, you're the blind leading the blind. You're hypocrites. You're trying to pretend to be righteous by yourself. And it's obvious to everybody that you're not. You're just greedy and you're wicked. This is how cold Jesus was delivering truth to them. And he says, you hinder people from getting into the kingdom of heaven. Like you're an obstacle to this thing. You heap upon them all sorts of things that you yourself don't keep. And so this is the deal. Now the crowd, he says, is massive, right? Under the circumstances, after so many thousands of people had gathered together that they were stepping all over one another. So here's this huge crowd. You can imagine, I mean, we're seeing crowds, actually, whatever, with the pro-Palestinian or pro-Jewish deal, and you see this like mass crowd, and they're just everywhere, right? It's bigger than that. These are stepping all over each other. So everybody's trying to get to here, either because they like the brouhaha that's happening, or they clearly, many of them had decided we're gonna follow Jesus. And so this is the situation. This is what's going on. Jesus is now moving to speak about warnings and judgment and things like that. And he speaks to his disciples. This is what it says, right? Under these circumstances, after so many thousands of people had gathered together that they were stepping on one another, he began saying to his disciples first of all, right? So he's going now. Luke is trying to let us know he's addressing in this huge crowd, and you've got many that are Pharisees and lawyers, and many who are who've already decided that's their team Pharisee, and then you've got those that are believing in Jesus, and so they are learning. They've decided to sign up to follow him, right? And so this is who they are, and he's speaking to that crowd, to the disciples, not to the naysayers, not to the Pharisees, not to any of them. He's speaking specifically to his people, and this is pretty severe. So listen to what he says: "Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy," right? This is it, right? So clear sides have been made. You've got the hypocrites, and that hypocrisy is because they're self-righteous. They want to believe that they're righteous, but they're doing it by themselves, and it's hypocrisy because everybody knows that you're not self-righteous, that you do evil deeds, that you're blind and you're wicked, and you're arrogant, right? We all know that about these Pharisees. And that's buttressed against genuine humility, Jesus, and his true righteousness. There was never an act, never a word that he spoke that wasn't true, that wasn't said in love, that wasn't said in a way that was life-changing in that sense. And so he's looking at his disciples who know the lines, and he's saying, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Beware, right? That means to watch yourselves. That's what that means, to have self-watch, right? Be aware. To be aware means to be cognizant of what's going on around, right? And so it means to have self-awareness in that sense. This is what he's calling. Hey, beware. Have some self-awareness here. Look at yourselves. Protect yourselves. Prevent yourself from that trouble. You can almost see him pointing at the Pharisees while he's looking at or at least in my mind I can, right? He's just, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. So, leaven of hypocrisy, and you know what leaven is, right? It's it's that little bit of enzyme that you drop into your dough, and it begins to cause it to rise, right? And just a little leaven leavens that whole lump, right? You don't pour the whole jar of that stuff in there. You just take a little bit out and you put it in, you mix it in, you set it aside, you cover it over, and then you watch as that towel that you covered over, it begins to rise up, and now it's bigger than the box that you'd put it in, right? And so that's what's happening. And he says, I want you to beware of the leaven of the hypocrisy. What's of the Pharisees? What's he saying? Man, hypocrisy is a little bit contagious. Self-righteousness is a little bit contagious. It doesn't take much to creep into your life, and then it just begins to grow, right? That's why he says, Paul tells us to avoid those who are entrenched in sin, for a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Paul's saying, hey, you don't let people be in sin, continue in sin, and stay in the body of Christ, because that sin of gossip that you don't root out, guess what's going to happen? It's going to permeate, and everybody's going to start gossiping, right? That sexual perversion, you let it in there, what's going to happen? Everybody will say, well, it must be okay, and it will do that. And so here he's speaking of this hypocrisy. This is self-righteousness. It's not just trying to play two-side in a silly game. This is pretending to be something you're not. This isn't that. This is only in the most severe case. You're pretending that you are righteous by your deeds. This is what he's saying. And he's, listen, and it's every false religion. Every false religion is about self-righteousness. All religion but Christ will have you earning your salvation. Why do the Muslims do what they do? Why do the Palestinians do what they did? They believe it rewards them. If they die, they die, and if they do, they get to heaven. They believe it's that if they can kill an infidel, somebody who doesn't believe, they're going to heaven, right? It's all about this. You look at the Hindu and the Buddhist and some of those. It's about self-denial, and I will just keep denying myself. Which will bring me to some sort of righteousness, and nothing will. Not even our great works will get us there, right? It just won't happen. And so everything the Pharisees did was to be seen by men. That was what they did. That's what Jesus said they did. They stand in the street, and when they fast, they want everybody to know it. So they don't bathe, they don't shave. They want everybody to go, oh man, he must be fasting. Look how somber he looks, right? And when they pray, they stand in the street. They beat their breasts. They're animated in what they do. They don't know anything about a closet prayer, right? This is who they are. And so when they walk in, they want to be recognized. So their garments are different. They want to be able to get the chief seats, right? They want all the favor of men. And he says, don't you get caught up in that whitewashing mess. Don't you get caught up thinking that you yourself can somehow earn salvation. This is what he's driving toward them. He's saying, listen, be careful. Now he's going to give us 3 reasons why we ought to be careful. And so we're just going to see them unfold in the time that we have left. The first thing is because God's going to bring everything to light. Look what he says in verse 2 and 3. But there is nothing covered up that will not be revealed. Man, they can't cover up their wicked heart with just these little outward shows of tossing coins into the trumpet at the offering brass deal at the entrance of every area in the temple. They look. God uncovers what's going on there. There is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be known. Accordingly, whatever you have said in the darkness will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed to the housetops. That's sobering thought, right? I mean, listen, God's going to bring everything to light. It's just going to happen. And so there's not one thing that you and I get away with. He's saying, listen, beware of that leaven, because it feels good. And you feel good because you think you're earning something and you're doing something. God knows underneath that layer of self-righteousness is a wicked heart. And he's saying, beware of that. Don't. This is the whole beatitude, right? Blessed are they who mourn. Blessed are those who poor, right? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. What is that talking about? It's talking about they know that there's no way self-righteousness. They know their poverty when it comes to righteousness, and they can't bring anything. They mourn over that. They grieve the fact that they can't get to a state of holiness, and they long for righteousness, right? And they have a hunger for that. I want to do the right thing. And he's saying, listen, beware that you don't let that beatitude slide. You become haughty. God is opposed to the proud. He gives grace to the humble. This is the whole point. And so, listen, there's going to come a time when books are going to be opened and truth will be revealed, right? There will be a day of judgment. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, they always kind of, and it was in the 70s, Jesus movement, Jesus revolution thing going on. And it was like, man, we're all going to be standing there. There's going to be a big screen in heaven, and all of a sudden, there's the highlights of your life, and everybody's going to see it, and you think, I mean, man, we used to freak us out when you think, everybody's going to see us? And then they would say, yeah, but listen, once they start seeing yours, they're worried about theirs, so ain't nobody worried about the screen. I'm not sure there's going to be a screen in heaven, but there are books, and they will be opened, and it does reveal everything that happened in your heart, and in your mind, and in your activity. Sobering thought. And so he goes, listen, don't fear those Pharisees. You fear the God who knows everything about you. That's why it's silly to play the game, because we play to an audience of one, right? We can fool all of our friends. There's still going to come a day when we stand before God and we don't fool him. And that's who we want to make sure understands how we see ourselves. And the second thing is that God's going to cast the hypocrite into hell. Man, this is sobering. Look at verse 4 and 5. Now I say to you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that have nothing more that they can do. But I will warn you whom to fear. Fear the one who, after he has killed someone, has the power to throw that person into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him, right? Fear that one. Now, what is he talking about there? Well, some would say, well, he's talking about Satan. But no. Satan doesn't have the power to throw you in hell. Satan's going there with those who don't believe in him. But listen to what he says. Life is more than this body. Look, there are a lot of people that say that there is no hell. I would tell you Jesus believes in that. And so, well, it's not hell, it's annihilation. I would tell you Jesus doesn't believe in that, in annihilation. Let me tell you why. It's common sense, what he says right here. But I warn you whom to fear. Fear the one who after he has killed someone, has the power to throw someone in prison. Right? Now, verse 4. Now I say to you, my friends, don't be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that there's nothing more they can do. Right? Once someone comes up and kill you, They can't do anything else. You're dead. They could do anything they want to with the body. They could throw in the water. They could burn it. They could do whatever. But you're dead. They can't harm you. You are already dead. Now, if that's true of them, and there is no hell, well, then God can't do any worse than a man can. God can only kill you, annihilate, right? Whatever. And once you're annihilated, doesn't matter what happens after that. This is the whole point of Jesus saying this. Hey, man, listen. Man, don't worry about the man who can take your life. Worry about the one who decides the fate of your soul. That's the issue. This is what's going on here. So just be clear. You got friends who don't believe in hell? That one verse right there, I don't know how they deal with it. I don't know how they wrestle with it, because Jesus made it plain that there's something else beyond the death that can be worse. Your soul can end up in eternal separation from God himself. Now, this is what he's saying here. And so listen, hell is eternal. Listen, don't go the way of the hypocrite. Why? Well, because God's going to bring everything to light. There's going to be a day of judgment. And secondly, those who are found having tried to earn their righteousness, they're heading to hell. So pay attention. The only thing we have is the cross. I have to humbly come before God, cry out to him that I am unholy and I can't for the life of me become holy. And if you don't declare me holy, I'm lost. I got nothing. That's the gospel. That's the gospel. It starts with the situation. The solution then is Christ. Then he comes to the third reason why we should be aware of that. He says in verse 6, it's because God knows everything. Nothing will escape him. Now, we're going to be judged for it, but even now, nothing escapes his notice. Look at verse 6. Are 5 sparrows not sold for 2 asaria? And yet not one of them has gone unnoticed in the sight of God. Man, sparrow were so many things. Yeah, I think Matthew says that you could buy them for 2 cents. So here there's some kind of a deal. You get 5 for 2, right? 5 for 2 cents. You get 3 free. That's what he's saying. This is how cheap sparrows are. They were the cheapest offering that you could offer to God in the temple. And they also were the cheapest sort of food that you could eat. It was like, it's not a lot, but it was there, and you could buy it, and you could cook it, you could eat it. And so he's saying, listen, God knows where every sparrow is on the entire planet. Think about it. Think about it. One falls from the tree. He knows that. You say, why would he want to know all that? He can't help but know all of that. It's not hard. Like, man, sometimes I feel like I've crammed too much in my brain and I can't get it out. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I have these random facts. Like, why is that even stored in my brain? Well, because that's how our brain works. But not God. He's omniscient. He knows all in real time, every millisecond. He knows what happens. He knows, and he goes on to say, he knows how many hairs there are on your head. I think there's like 200,000 hairs on the average head. Obviously not mine. But he knows when everyone falls out. He knows it. Listen, you think about all these cancer patients. And they're taking chemo and their hair begins to fall out. God doesn't need to see it. He just knows. Oh, today you only have 138,000. Oh, tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Right now you just lost 4 more. Right? This is the vastness of who God is. And so when it says here, yet not one of them goes unnoticed in the sight of God, but even the hairs of your head are all counted. Right? He's like, listen, God knows everything. Quit trying to play games here. He knows when you're doing that. He knows when you lied. He knows when you got away with something and you didn't quite state specifically the issue, but the effect of that was that they believed something that wasn't true, even though you technically didn't lie. He knows all of that. He knows when you utter those words about, oh, I'm sorry, whether you are or not. He knows all of that. And he's telling us, hey, listen, fear that one. And then he ends with a great statement. We're gonna finish with this one. Do not fear. You're more valuable than a great number of sparrows. There's the hope, right? Listen, fear that Pharisee. Fear that if you hang out with him and start following them, that leaven's going to come in, and it's going to bring you. And this at Judgment Day, it's going to be found out that hell is the destination of that, and that right now God knows already. Right now, God knows already everything you do wrong. And then he says, but if that's the posture, that's kind of what you hear him saying. Hey, but don't fear, because you're not them, right? So there's hope. Now, some of you may be. Some of you ought to fear because you are playing the hypocrite. But here he's saying, hey, you're more valuable than the sparrow. He knows you. You don't have to fear him. He knows you. Man, this is powerful. Lord bless you. I'm going to head to work. You have a great day, and I'll see you Monday.